All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel, the main event here. And today we're going to talk about why Okidogi has essentially replaced Iron Hands as like one of the premier fighting types in Gen 9 VGC. Before we get started, who is your favorite fighting type? Let me know that down in the comments below. The Is This Team Still Good series is poised to continue because you guys did so well in the first one. I have 2 people already scheduled for some of those, so those are going to be awesome. But otherwise, let's go ahead and get right into the video. So, as you guys know, Iron Hands kind of dominated Gen 9 for a long time, up until about the return of Incineroar. Incineroar kind of knocked it out of its position, and a lot of people think it's because of Intimidate, which does play a factor, but you have to remember that Iron Hands dealt with Intimidators before, right? It had to deal with Arcanine, Hisuian Arcanine, and Gyarados Intimidators. The difference with those is that Arcanine just kind of had a better matchup into those because none of those had a way to stop Iron Hands, but Iron Hands always had a way to stop them. For example, like Choice Band Arcanine sets would always just get faked out, for example. And Flare Blitz had too much recoil, and the rock moves were not effective with the Iron Hands. So it would just Drain Punch, even at -1, it would just Drain Punch them back, and it would always beat those Pokemon 1v1. Versus Incineroar, which has Fake Out of its own, and sometimes is often like faster than Iron Hands. Because Iron Hands isn't in the meta right now, a lot of people are running their Incineroar really slow. But I think if there was fast Iron Hands in the meta, people would run faster Incineroars. So generally, a faster Fake Out Pokemon that can intimidate it and also parting shot it. Not only that, but Incineroar being a prime knockoff user has really hurt Iron Hands a lot because Iron Hands, with a Pokemon with no ability, really relies on this item. So for example, Iron Hands used to hold like the Assault Vest for a long time. Incineroar would be able to fake it out, and then let's say it just knocked it off the Assault Vest, and then you could just like blow it up with your partner Pokemon, right? Like your Fluttermane or something on the next turn. All while your Incineroar is not dying to like -1 Drain Punch, for example. Even if you have something like Goggles, Incineroar would knock those off, like on the Swords Dance sets. So you knock those off and then you click Spore, and what ends up happening is you put the Iron Hands to sleep and it's -1. And then Iron Hands with Clarion is good, but the problem is then your special defense stat, which is usually huge with the Assault Vest, is just kind of like good, kind of decent, and it makes it more susceptible to special attackers. And that doesn't even stop it from getting like faked out, knocked off, parting shotted after that as well, right? And you still would need to have a really strong Iron Hands with like close combat. And then clicking close combat to trade the Incineroar almost guarantees your Iron Hands is going to die anyway. So it's kind of like a trade. So Incineroar kind of really hurts Iron Hands in that way. Okidogi has a 2 set that kind of works against Incineroar though, right? Whereas Iron Hand has to deal with the Intimidate, Okidogi doesn't because of Guard Dog. It gets the +1 instead of the -1. And it also has Upper Hand. And I don't think they gave this to, yeah, they didn't give it to Iron Hands for some strange reason. Like it has two of the biggest hands in Pokemon. Why didn't they give it Upper Hand? But Okidogi getting Upper Hand is really good, right? Because now if you bring your Incineroar in, you have to worry about the Guard Dog ability, right? So now instead of dealing with the -1 Drain Punches, you're dealing with +1 Drain Punches, right? And because you're dealing with super effective Drain Punches at +1, even though Upper Hand has been picking up, you're still incentivized to click Fake Out because either you switch out, right? You switch out with the Incineroar and have to bring it back in later, giving up another Guard Dog boost, or you try to go for a parting shot, but you get Drain Punched first. So now you have the Terra, which you can still get hit for Drain Punch and still take a lot of damage. Or you go for your Fake Out and then you click Upper Hand, and now all of a sudden you're getting hit for super effective damage because it's base 65, right? At +1. So it goes to like 130. So now your Incineroar is probably going to die anyway. So it makes it really hard for Incineroar to just kind of dominate Okidogi the same way that it dominates Iron Hands. Even if you look at the items that Iron Hands uses, for example, like the Assault Vest, I'll show you some stuff here. So I have 2 calcs here, and these calcs are Fluttermane calcs, and these are just spreads that that were on the website already. So Specs Fluttermane 220 Timid, you see here, right? It does 65 to 77 to Okidogi. That's actually not the right number, but you'll catch my drift in a moment. So to Assault Vest Iron Hands 252 per def, because of obviously the special defense, I mean the typing and the special defense, it does 68 to 81%, right? Just 220 specs of Fluttermane. Difference with this calc, which why it does almost as much, is because I'm using Terra Fairy Fluttermane. If I take off the Terra, it goes from that high number to 49 to 57. So like Okidogi, and that's with no special defense investment. That's just the Assault Vest, right? You can definitely like change it. Like for example, like if you go to the same special defense that has like Iron Hands for like the 120 that it likes to run, which is 252, all of a sudden like it's a 9.4 chance to 2 KO. If you're not like a Terra Fairy Fluttermane. And like Gunk Shot, for example, just kind of just destroys Flutter Mane. And if you don't want to run Gunk Shot because it missed, you can run Poison Jab. Let me see. How much does Poison Jab even do? Poison Jab does like 75 to 88. So you'll get 2 shots at this. Not to mention like Okidogi also gets stuff like Knockoff. Yeah, so like Knockoff can do a lot of damage. And if the Flutter does try to Terra to pick up the knockout, Poison Jab will just kill it. Poison Jab and Gunk Shot will still just destroy Flutter Mane. So even like it's even a better user of the Assault Vest than Iron Hands is in this current format. Like I said, it also used to use the Goggles item. Well, the Iron Hands used the Goggles item. This with Goggles for Amoonguss is even better than Iron Hands is in a sense, because versus Amoonguss, Poison hits Amoonguss for like neutral, versus like Iron Hands, Electric, so Drain Punch and Fighting type move, Close Combat, whatever you want to do, and Wild Charge, they don't hit Amoonguss for really any damage at all. So you're not really getting that much out of the Goggles 1v1 versus Amoonguss as you would with the Okidogi. And you could run Ice Punch, but then you're dropping moves that this thing really likes to have, like Heavy Slam. For example, like I feel like the move pool is a little bit less versatile unless you're running one of those like Swords Dance, Thunder Punch. But even if you're running Swords Dance, you're running Swords Dance, Thunder Punch, or Wild Charge and Drain Punch, right? And then like Protect. So you're not even getting to hit it with Heavy Slam, which does decent damage to Amoonguss. On the other hand, if you have like a Goggles Okidogi, or even any other Okidogi for that matter, you can hit it with like one of your stabs, which is the poison move, Poison Jab. You could also run Ice Punch on this if you want, because you're not really sweating the move slots as much. You can run stuff like Knockoff to get rid of like Amoonguss's Berry. You can run what are the other moves that it has? It has like High Horsepower, which also hits Amoonguss and stuff like that for neutral. It just has a lot more ways to deal with Amoonguss 1v1 than like Iron Hands does, no matter kind of what set you're running in a sense. Even if you look at like their typings, right? If you look at the defensive typing here for Iron Hands, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 resistances, which are really, really good. And it has 3 weaknesses, which is not bad, right? But it is weak to Ground and Fairy, which are probably two of the most common offensive types right now with like all the Lando Eyes and all the Flutter Mane. Those are really, 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 really common types. Even like Dazzling Gleam on like for a Giraffe, for example, is really common. Psychic, people are not really worried about Psychic as much, so I don't really care about that. Like there's some side span stuff, but you can just play around that with your Terras. But if you look at like Okidogi, it has 3 weaknesses as well, but its weaknesses to Ground, just like Iron Hands, so they both share that. They both share the Psychic weakness, and again, you just play around side spam. Not a lot of things are running that Psychic single target kind of damage, except for some for a Giraffe, which is, again, you can deal with that. And there's not really a lot of flying type damage in the format, right? Lander Asterion was the premier Terra Blast flying user. It's not been around a lot. And not to mention, even if it was, that Intimidate would activate your Guard Dog. So you'd still get the +1 boost. Bleakwind Storm is just not a move that Okidogi's afraid of. With the Assault Vest item and the 86 special defense stat, it just is not worried about Bleakwind Storm at all. So it really just is the ground weakness. And then you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get 6 resistances, right? That's really, really good. Between that and like Drain Punch, it's really easy to keep Okidogi alive. Even if you don't want to run like Assault Vest, even though right now Assault Vest is the premier item for it, it has like lefties that you can run. And then you can run like Bulk Up. And like Iron Hands, I think it only gets Swords Dance and Belly Drum, but it doesn't get, it doesn't get Bulk Up either, right? So Swords Dance is good because it raises his offensive, but like I think Okidogi getting like Bulk Up is better for it because you can like invest more into your special defense. For example, something like this, and like even like this, right? You see Iron Hands per def stat is so low that like if you invest the same amount, it's just a way higher number, 138 versus the 120. And the Bulk Up makes your defense stat, which is already absurdly high, even higher. And then like your health stat, which is not as good as Iron Hands, you can kind of just invest more in it while also getting the attack boost from like Bulk Up, for example. So it's just really helpful to have like the Bulk Up as the setup. Bulk Up, Drain Punch, and then the Guard Dog again, because your Bulk Ups can't get intimidated down and they can only get boosted by Intimidate. It's just really helpful. And then like the combination of lefties plus Drain Punch is just really good for this mod. If you ever see me and Moxie use it, we played some games on his channel where we just had the dog always at 100% to end the games because of Drain Punch plus like Grassy Terrain or something like that plus lefties. Or even if you want to run like Citrus. And then to reiterate with like the differences in the defensive typing, whereas the Okidogi is a little bit better defensively with his typing. It also means your Terra is a little bit more flexible in the sense that you can kind of pick a Terra for a specific thing, right? Iron Hands usually tries to go for something that doesn't want to like die to Flutter Mane, for example, or maybe you sacrifice that to not die to like Urshifu Rapid Strike, or you switch to Grass to not lose to Amoonguss. Like the thing is though, with that you're kind of losing to something else. With Okidogi's defensive typing, and the way that it plays, you are oftentimes you just kind of want to make sure you're not getting hit by like Urshifu Rapid Strike, because it would just kind of just crit through any kind of bulk up boost, or just crit through its high defense stat. But like anything else, you're not really that worried about because it resists most of those things, right? Like we said here before. Grass Rillaboom doesn't really hurt it. Fire would be Incineroar, where that doesn't hurt it at all. The Dark Urshifus don't touch it, and Fighting doesn't touch it. So like Dark Urshifu has a really bad matchup to this, same as Iron Hands. Opposing and poison types don't hit it. Like I said, with the ground, you can Terra into like something else. And then even if you just Terra into something neutral, because of its survivability and its ability to run a bunch of different moves, like Ice Punch for Landos if you want. If you just Terra into something neutral and have the Assault Vest, like nothing's just knocking this thing out in one hit. So Pikalytics here will show like the Showdown most used Pokemon. So this is just Regulation F Showdown, and they have the best of 3 ladder. I'll just go by either one, right? So what I want to do here is go through like the top Pokemon that are the most used right now, right? And just review how Okidogi's matchup is into a lot of them. So like, for example, we know that Okidogi kind of beats Flutter Mane 1v1. So does Iron Hands in a lot of cases if you have like full health in your Terra. But Okidogi beats it without its Terra, right? Because again, it just has the survivability against it because it's not super effective damage. It always beats Ogerpon Wellspring. Like at the very worst, at the very least, it forces it to Terra. And you can just Drain Punch back any damage you get. It can't Horn Leech you back for a lot of damage because you resist it. And if you force them to like Terra, and you Terra into like water for whatever reason, their move does not do it any damage at all. You probably, if you have it in range, you can just like kill it with Drain Punch or your Gunk Shot, Poison Jab, depending on what you're running. Incineroar, you kind of already reviewed that, where this thing kind of just beats Incineroar all the time. Even like Raging Bolt doesn't really have much answer for the Assault Vest sets. Even like the Calm Mind sets, you need more than one Calm Mind in order to kind of break through Okidogi, while Okidogi is just going to keep getting its health back, right? And not to mention, like Okidogi has like, if you have like a lefty set, and it's running knockoff, Okidogi will just knock it off and then Drain Punch, Drain Punch, Drain Punch. It'll even like Poison Jab you, and then you're just like on a timer if you get the poison, right? So now Raging Bolt loses to it. Landorus does have a positive matchup into both Iron Hands and Okidogi, but again, you can run like Ice Punch, knockoff. A lot of Landorus are Terra Steel now, so you can Drain Punch it if you can force it to Terra with your teammate. This is Urshifu Single Strike. Urshifu Single Strike just loses to Okidogi 100%. Amoonguss, again, is something that Okidogi can at least hit. If you're not running Goggles, it'll put you to sleep, but you can hit it for decent damage. And Amoonguss can't really hit you for anything, right? It can't hit you with poison moves, Polypuff does nothing, etc. It always beats Rillaboom, because Rillaboom can't touch it, because even with high horsepower, it's not doing enough damage. That's if it even has the move. And their speed stats are similar, so you can actually EV to outspeed a lot of Rillabooms if you really want to. And Poison Jab does a ton of damage, and I'm pretty sure Gunk Shot just one-shots. Especially because Rillaboom likes to be paired with Incineroar a lot, so as a tandem, especially because like you could upper hand both, even though you need to be faster than Rillaboom for upper hand to work, because they're in the same priority bracket, so keep that in mind. Urshifu Rapid Strike, if you Terra into water, you can beat Urshifu Rapid Strike with Drain Punch if they're locked in Surging Strike, they're Choice Scarfed. Like if they're Choice Scarfed, they have to make a call, right? They either have to lock into Surging Strikes and you Terra water, or they'll lock into Close Combat to do damage to you. And even then, it might not kill, and then Drain Punch does way more damage. You get all that health back anyway, because Close Combat just lowers their defenses. Tornadus, you can kind of beat slowly, because again, Bleak Wind just doesn't do enough damage to you, and you have partners for that. Chien-Pao doesn't do enough damage, especially if you're Terra Water. It can't hit you super effective with Sacred Sword like other fighting types. Not other fighting types, but just like Urshifu Dark. If you have the Terra Water, even if you're not Terra, even if you don't Terra, Azure Crash doesn't do that much to it, but Drain Punch will just give you all the health back anyway. And if you have Terra Ghost, again, it probably is running something. It's running, not only is it running the fighting and the poison stab, it might be running the dark stab with knockoff as well. Ogerpon Heart Flame is a good mon to have against it. However, the grass typing forces, it's always forced to Terra. All Ogerpons are just forced to Terra in front of this thing, or they're gonna just get blown up by the poison type stab. Goldengo doesn't do enough damage quickly, I don't think, to it, because you have to watch out for the knockoffs with the Terra. If you don't Terra and it doesn't have knockoff, you can be at an advantage against it, but chances are the Assault Vest sets may have the knockoff move. So you're going to be trying to do damage into it, but the Assault Vest is just going to be soaking it up. And knockoff is going to be wearing you down. And then a lot of Goldengo tend to run like Terra Fairy now, I want to say, which loses to poison type from Okidogi. King Gambit loses to Okidogi, Roy Moon loses to Okidogi, Chi loses to Okidogi, Iron Hands loses to Okidogi. Fridrive can beat it, but if you Terra, then it beats Fridrive as well. Glamora can't do anything to it. It can't poison it. It can Earth Power, but that's not gonna do any damage. The Rock move gets resisted as well. Gouging Fire can at least wear it down with Breaking Swipe, but like if you have a bulk up set, you can kind of deal with that. And it doesn't do enough damage to it fast enough versus like you can just Drain Punch, maybe get a Poison Touch or whatever. Not Poison Touch, but a Poison Jab, Poison. Porygon doesn't do enough damage to it. Arcanine Hisui loses to it bad. And Didi would have to have Psychic to run it, or it just doesn't touch it. You would mostly need to run Dazzling Gleam, which doesn't do any damage. Torkoal needs to be on a Trick Room to beat it, and it needs to be full health to get those eruptions off, and maybe even Terra Fire. Blood Moon with Life Orb through Assault Vest. I'm not sure how much damage it does, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't kill if you're EV'd right. Komodo would need to have a body press up. You guys get the drift, right? So Okidogi just has a very, very strong matchup into like all of the top Pokemon that you'll see right now. People may have to tech on like some Psychic type moves in order to deal with it, but essentially it's taking the role that Iron Hands used to have, right? Iron Hands to me was never like that broken offensively. It was just really hard to deal with because so it kept things in check, right? Even Fluttermane, because it couldn't one-shot it in a lot of cases if you like had Terra especially, or if you weren't like a fully invested modest Fluttermane. Fully invested modest Fluttermane could kill it, but even that would have to get checked by Iron Hands with like Heavy Slam. All the strong Pokemon, Dragonite got checked by Iron Hands, Chien-Pao, the Urshifus with water, like Tornursh got checked by Iron Hands. Everything got checked by Iron Hands, and Iron Hands wasn't like that overpowered. Okidogi has essentially taken over that role in these last few weeks, where it's just checking all the good stuff, but Okidogi itself is not an overpowered Pokemon. But that's all I got for you guys. So again, who's your favorite fighter type in the comments? What you guys think of Okidogi? Oh, let me, you guys can say hi to the star of the video. I should have had him in the beginning, but I didn't put him on because you see the green here, the green screen messes it up. So you can't really see him in all his glory. But look how big this plush is. Like, look at the size, look at the plush. But yeah, man, thank you guys for watching. The Is This Team Still Good series will be back very, very soon. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.